Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Salaries, Benefits, and Bonuses, Oh My, Understanding, Comparing, and Accepting Job Offers. A couple of years ago, at the request of a faculty member, I put together this presentation and have since done it a number of times. And really, it was, I don't know if I should have been surprised, but I was surprised how much our students don't know about how to look at job offers, what's important to know about job offers, and all of that. So hopefully this information is going to be really helpful. I know even in advertising for this presentation, I've already had a handful of students come to talk to me about job offers they received and how to deal with those offers, multiple offers, and that type of thing. So I know it's something that is of interest to our students. So what are we going to learn about? In this presentation, we're going to talk about how to read and understand a job offer, elements of a job offer, salaries and knowing your worth, which I think is particularly important for all of us, benefits, what they are and what they mean, bonuses, raises, and other salary components, something that a lot of times students just think, oh, it's the salary and that's it. They don't think about all these other things, all these other components. So we're going to talk about all of those. And then we're also going to talk about comparing job offers, accepting and declining offers, and contingencies. So that's what we're going to talk about today. One thing we are not going to talk about is salary negotiation. We're going to do that as part of another presentation. So let's see. What is a job offer? You know, a job offer is kind of like this agreement. If you come and work for me, I will give you money and I will give you benefits and other things. But generally when we're talking about an employment offer, you know, a job offer, employment, it's salaries, benefits, job responsibilities, you know, who your reporting manager is. You can see from the list here, it's all those things. And so depending upon who you're reporting to might make a difference in terms of, wow, this is somebody I really respect and I want to report to that person. That may make a difference to you in terms of how strong that full employment offer is. So it's all these things, especially time off is something that's very important to folks. Knowing and understanding the other forms of compensation, things like bonuses and whatnot, that's really, it's everything that goes into it. So that's kind of what is a job offer. Oh, one of the things I want to point out too here, a lot of times people call you and they'll say, we're really excited. We want you to come work for us. The salary is going to be this and da 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 da. You know, understand that verbally is great, but please make sure you get it in writing. Please ask for them to send it to you in writing. You know, it's almost like when you go to the doctor and you get there and then in the heat of the moment, you forget the questions you were supposed to ask. Same kind of thing here. First of all, you're just super excited that you got the offer. And so everything else kind of, you may not remember everything exactly the way you thought you did. And so asking for it after you've been offered a verbal and asking for it in writing is perfectly acceptable. So do make sure you do that. Oops, sorry. First off, know what you're worth. I think this is the thing that a lot of times students haven't really done the research to know what they should be making. I think a lot of times they just have a number in their mind or somebody said that they should, but does that actually in line with what, as we like to say, the marketplace really can bear? So it's really important before you even start looking for a job to understand how much you would be a comfortable salary range. Is that something you're comfortable with? And then also you're going to want to take into consideration the cost of living in certain places. So here you can see an example. If you Google the question, how much do engineers make in South Carolina? You see here the average is 83 per year and change. But starting salary can go, there's going to be a bigger range. A lot of times what you're going to see when you do a search is you're going to see a bell curve, and it's going to talk about percentiles. So like the 10th percentile, the 20th percentile, what's the median, and then what's going to be on the other end. Now, if you think about this example in South Carolina, where it goes anywhere from 50 to 139, think about somebody who just got out of school, maybe doesn't have a lot of experience or relevant internships. That person might start closer to 50 or 49. But then you're talking about somebody who's getting closer to retirement, you're going to expect they're going to be making, in that upper part of that range. So think of it as a range and really check and do your research. We have a couple of really great tools with the Indiana Career Explorer. I just was showing a student how to utilize Indiana Career Explorer to look at salaries. And the great thing about that is Indiana Career Explorer is tied to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So this is national information that is available, but it's broken down in an Indiana Career Explorer. You can go into the state, and then you also can go into the region in that state. So for example, you could go in and see what does a mechanical engineer make in Indianapolis, and what does a mechanical engineer make in Fort Wayne. Now, again, those numbers may not be the same, but if you go and look at the cost of living comparisons, you may see that Indy is anywhere from 11 to 20% more, depending upon the part of the city you live in. Cost of living is more than it is here in Fort Wayne. I once had a student who came to me, and she had been offered $35,000 for a job here in Fort Wayne. And then she had been offered a job in Chicago for 50. And she said, well, the one in Chicago is just is so much better that, they're offering me so much more money. Well, when we put it into the calculator, really and truly, the one in Fort Wayne was a much better deal because of the cost of living. So understanding how much you're worth, how much you should be making, and understanding the cost of living is really, really important. Now, I tag this, the difference between a good job offer and a great job offer. I cannot tell you, I cannot stress enough the importance of benefits and what they mean to you and the bottom line of what you're actually going to make. Okay. Because a lot of these benefits, things that you receive either at a cost or no cost, those things, if you think about it, they can mean, say, let's say a gym membership is a benefit that comes to you for free. You can, or at a very discounted rate. Think about the money you would have to make in order to pay taxes on that, and then have the amount of money you need for it. So think about these as great pre-tax dollar types of benefits, if you will. So, but some of the general benefits that most employers offer, and those are changing as employers try to be more marketable to younger folks, to millennials and whatnot. They are adding some things that really are more a desire, if you will, for that age group. But in general, some of the big ones are health insurance. And, I can't stress to you enough about really comparing health insurance and wellness benefits between two companies, because it can make a huge difference in terms of how much you have to pay out of pocket for that health insurance. Or, God bless my husband, we don't pay anything for our health insurance. It is provided at no cost to us. So that's a great benefit of not having to pay, especially where, well, not all, most of my kids are grown, but I still have a few on my health plan. But when I had 5 kids, that was, if I had to go out and purchase health insurance, that would be quite expensive. So really look and compare what type of plans they have. Look and see how much it's going to cost you out of pocket for that health insurance. So you want to be able to compare company to company. You want to be able to look at just all the pieces, parts of what that health coverage looks like. I had a couple of students who were comparing different job offers, and the health insurance was definitely something that they didn't think to look at. And then when they did, it made a real difference. So health insurance is probably one of the most expensive benefits around for an employer. And there may be wellness benefits that go along with that as well. Some insurers will even require, if you fall into a certain BMI, you get a discount. If you walk so many steps a day, you get a discount. There are all sorts of things. So look at how that health insurance is structured and the wellness benefits that go along. Dental insurance, at least in terms of preventative care, is almost always included. Again, there may be a cost, but some will then also have kind of a sliding fee depending upon your policy in terms of how much you pay, co-pays, if there's any money for orthodontia, all those types of things. So take a look at those as well. You're almost always going to have some type of life insurance associated. Usually it's like so much times your salary. A lot of times that's provided at low or no cost to individuals, which again, that just saves you money in the long run. Along with that, sometimes you're going to get long-term and or short-term disability. That just again depends on the employer and what they provide. Vision insurance is one that not everyone includes, but some do. So, that's another place to look, especially if you wear contacts or you need glasses like me. Vision insurance can be a really good deal in terms of helping you pay for if you have, especially if you're like me and have expensive prescriptions. So vision insurance, if that's something you need, take a look and see if that's there. Another big one is 401k, 403b, pensions, and other retirement plans. Now, for those of you who don't know, 401ks are for-profit institutions. 403bs usually apply to nonprofit organizations. So that's the only difference really, is one's for profit and one's nonprofits. Not a whole lot of pensions anymore, but a pension is where after you work X amount of time, once you retire, you are guaranteed X amount a month for the rest of your life or whatever given amount of time. The thing about that, and sometimes there are other types of retirement options, but the big thing about at least the 401k and the 403b really is what the employer will match. Back in the day when you had pensions, a lot of people work for the same company for a very long time. And so they rewarded them at the end with a gold watch, as they used to say, and a pension. Anymore, the government has given employers a little bit of a carrot, if you will, to try and encourage people to save for retirement. So in other words, there are things that it makes it good for the company to be able to say, we will match such amount. So the big thing, again, you want to see is how much do they match? And that can mean a lot, because if you give to that amount, say here at Indiana Tech, we are so blessed. They will match 10% of our salary for every 2% that we save. It's capped at 2%. So I just have to put aside pre-tax 2% of my salary, and the institution will give me 10% of my salary in the way of my 403b. Now, other companies, it may be a percentage of whatever, like whatever you give, they will give you such a 6% of whatever you donate, up to so much money. Whatever that is, look for that match and make sure you take that match. I just can't believe it. Every year I hear of, there's still folks who aren't taking the match, and understand this is free money. It's like, if I put 2% of my salary in my 403b, I'm automatically going to get from the institution 10% of my salary in that same account. So free money, all you have to do is give to the match amount. Definitely check those out. Now, the next one is something that a lot of people don't know a lot about or don't know how this works. And this really can vary greatly depending on the company, the industry, all those good things. So for example, my daughter is a mechanical engineer, industrial engineer, and she has no sick days. She has no paid sick days. If she gets sick and she has to be out, she's out. They don't really worry about it until it gets to some type of number that they then have to do something about. Okay. But for example, here at Tech, you have 10 sick days and that's it. And once they're done, they're done. And then that's all you have. Okay. So, but the paid holidays, paid vacations, paid holidays is a big one. I know between my husband and I, we have a very different holiday schedule. So that means that if we take the same vacation days off, if he's going to take off the same holidays that I do, he's going to have to use additional vacation days. And then at the end of the year, he's going to run out before I am, and I'm going to have vacation time. So sometimes you want to look at how those paid holidays are factored in and which holidays you're paid for. Personal days, this is something that is really nice because it's not necessarily a vacation day. A lot of times what folks will do and are doing more of is offering personal days so that folks can celebrate any religious holidays or those types of things, birthdays, whatnot. A lot of that I think is because the world has just changed since I was a child. Not everybody takes Good Friday off for Easter anymore because some people do not celebrate Easter. So giving paid personal days is a great way to then tell folks you have the ability to take these days off and celebrate them however you like. Bereavement or funeral leave, knock on wood, I've not had to use, but it is something that should the death of an immediate family member happen, that you're able to be gone and still be compensated for the time that you're gone. Okay, so some other types of benefits, and again, these can really be a big bonus. We have things such as the healthcare flexible spending accounts, and also with that, well, let me explain that one first. So with flexible spending accounts, you can put aside X amount of money in an account that is pre-taxed. So this money can go there, and then you can use that for any qualifying health expenses. And depending upon, there's lists that you can get from the company to know what types of things are covered under this. But it's great because you think about it, for every dollar, if you're in a 25%, say, tax bracket, you're going to get 1 times 25% worth in that account because you didn't have to pay taxes on it. So that's a great program. The other really super great program is the high deductible plans that allow you to have a health savings account. And you can donate, I believe it, well, for me, I think I'm old, so it's like $8,000 a year. I think it's $7,000 if you're under 55. You can put that in pre-tax into an account, and that money, you then can invest that money, and it will grow tax-free. And then when you take it out, it is for qualifying expenses, it's tax-free. So you put it in pre-tax, it grows tax-free, and when you take it out, it's tax-free. It is the only vehicle where you get triple tax-free benefits. And that can really mean a lot depending upon how much you're making. So think about that. Tuition assistance programs, these are great. This is where the company basically will pay for you to go to school to further your education. And this has become a really big perk for a lot of younger folks, because people know they want to go and get either additional training or, you know, a master's degree or whatnot, and having your company help to pay for that is a real bonus. One caveat to that, I would say, is to double check about if there's any requirements that you stay with the company or organization for any period of time after completing those. A lot of times people are like, hey, look, I'm not going to pay for you to go back to get a master's degree and then leave here and go take a better job. So do double check about those kinds of things. But that's a great perk, is where they can assist you. And you can get up to, I think it's a little over $5,000 and not be taxed on that as income. So they give you the money to go to school, but you don't have to pay tax on it. So that's a big bonus. Daycare or childcare reimbursement. Some companies will do that. You always can also save pre-tax. I believe you still can. Don't quote me on that one, but a lot of folks will, you know, provide some type of benefit in that area. Professional development. This is a big one for a lot of people too. A lot of people my age, in all ages, I guess, you know, if I want to go to a conference, you know, it easily can cost, you know, $2,000-3,000 to go to a conference. And if, you know, my boss will pay for me to once a year or once every 2 years to go to something, that's just going to help me develop as a professional and then be able to share what I've learned here, you know, at the institution and in my job. But that's still a nice perk that they're going to pay for that. So if that's important to you, and especially too, think about it if you're in a career, well, I mean, to be honest, it's probably all careers, but you know, if you're especially in one that is rapidly changing and professional development is imperative for you to be able to keep up with your job, this can be very helpful. Travel, again, depending upon your job, if you're required to travel as part of your job, being reimbursed either mileage or in some cases, you know, being provided a company car. You know, my husband has a company car, and if you think about it, so we don't have to pay for his car. We don't have to pay for his gas. We don't have to pay for any upkeep or oil changes or anything like that. We don't have to pay for taxes and tags for the car. You know, we pay none of those things. And so that really, if you think about how much it costs you to have a car a year, that can also add up. So super important there. Cell phone, laptops, computers, iPads, and other technology helpers. You know, the cell phone thing, I think I may have to just about take that one off, because a lot of times companies aren't either reimbursing for cell phones or assuming that everyone has a cell phone, so they don't provide you one. Other times they do want you to use a company cell phone, so those can be provided. And if you can use that for personal calls as well, again, that saves you a good bit of money, right? So any of these things can be super helpful and save you money in the long run, depending upon how it's structured. Now, intangible benefits, I think this is something, again, it depends upon your industry that you're going into, the company. A lot of larger companies are going to have leadership programs. A lot of those or training programs, a lot of times what that means is folks will come in and the company knows they want to hire you, but they're going to have you, they're going to rotate you through multiple departments to see where you think and they think the best fit would be for you in that organization. They may also provide training programs. I know when I was at the hospital, I used to be a recruiter for a hospital, and we would hire our respiratory therapists in at one level, but we provided, you know, additional training so they could get all the way up to, you know, their certified respiratory therapist degree. And some of that was done in-house. Some of it's done in conjunction with another university, but I mean, that was really a deal. It's like, I'm going to work here, but I'm also going to be paid to go to school. So that was kind of a neat thing. Remote work, this again, now with COVID, I probably need to put that to the front, because remote work and flexibility of schedule. We all have seen how that has really been impacted by COVID and has become much more of a desire of people to know that you can work from home one day a week or work at home all the time, or have flexibility. I know I have some young mothers on my staff, and the flexibility for them to be able to take their lunch at different times during the day, not just 12 to 1, is a great benefit to them, because that way they can go to see their kids' school plays and go do other things. So remote work flexibility is a big, big piece of what can really help you to, what we don't say work-life balance anymore. We say work-life integration, right? So those intangible benefits can be really pretty helpful. And then again, here I have some specialized benefits. I think the one that at least those of us who work here at Indiana Tech, know, love, and appreciate and thank Indiana Tech for is our kids can go to Indiana Tech for free, or other tuition program schools. So that's a big thing. I had 5 kids, so 5 kids can go to college, right? That's a lot of money. So that's worth a lot to me. A lot of corporations are going to give you stock options. I'd already talked about the company car. It depends on the industry as to what those benefits might be. Okay, so those are kind of the benefits. And if anybody can think of one that I don't have on the list, please feel free to shoot me an email and give me your suggestions to add on. But next I want to talk about bonuses, raises, and other forms of compensation. Now this can make a big difference, but you have to think of them as other forms of compensation, at least some of the monetary ones. So let me explain. A lot of times folks will give you a sign-on bonus. A sign-on bonus means if you come take this job with us, we will give you within the first X amount of time, X amount of money. So that's great, but that's usually a one-time deal. And there's usually some type of carrier with it in terms of you being required to stay with the organization for a certain amount of time, right? So sign-on bonuses are not unheard of, but sometimes company will do that as a way to kind of pull you in, but then they're still not guaranteed, or they're not guaranteeing to pay you your salary plus that amount every year thereafter, right? So commissions, also, and yearly bonuses, profit sharing, merit pay, all those can be a very important part of what you are paid. But also understand those things can vary greatly from year to year. Your commissions, again, if you sell X amount of this, then you're going to get X amount for that. So you may have a base salary plus commissions. If you have a good year, you may make lots of money. If you don't have such a great year, you may not. So looking at that and understanding how that works is important. And also bonuses and profit sharing, same thing goes for those. If the company has a really good year, you may get a really good bonus, or you may get a profit sharing cut. But if the company doesn't, then you may not. Merit pay usually refers to if you've done a good job, you're going to get paid more. They're going to give you a pay raise, basically. So those are all a little bit different, but again, they can mean a lot of money, and you really want to make sure you understand and know that that is not guaranteed. There aren't guaranteed amounts for those. So that's really important to understand. Stock options, again, that's where it's like, if you've had a good year, we may give you X shares of our stock. The only thing I will say about that is make sure that's not your only savings is stock options. I think we've seen a number of companies that kind of went the wayside, and people had all of their retirement in stock options. And then it was all of a sudden it was just the stock tanks, then all their money was gone. So you want to be careful with those. Overtime pay, you want to understand if you are eligible for overtime pay. In a lot of jobs, if you're a salaried employee or non-exempt, you're not going to get overtime, right? So some people qualify for overtime pay and some do not. You want to make sure you understand whether your position does or not. One of the big things next is these relocation expenses, tax offsets. And a lot of times, depending upon your position, if they're going to move you around a lot of times they will even help to pay for, startup utilities, different things. Ask about relocation expenses if it means you're taking a job in another place. And then also make sure you understand when they pay for you to move. For example, my husband's job that brought us here to Fort Wayne, the company paid for a moving company to come, pack up my house, pack up everything, put it in a moving truck, bring it all to Fort Wayne, take it all out, put it in my new house, right? And that was quite expensive. However, they gave us the money to pay for that. Now, the problem with that is they gave us money, so that was considered income. So we then have to pay taxes on it. So the company then gave us the money to offset the taxes. So just make sure you understand, depending upon how expensive your relocation expenses will be, how that's factored into the pay. Sometimes they will pay for meal and housing allowances. A lot of times they'll say, you can live, we will provide you with X amount of money for however many weeks, days, whatever, so that you can find a house in your new location. So make sure you ask about those because that can be helpful. There were a couple of times we had to live in a hotel for a couple of 2-3 weeks until, our house closed and we could move in. But he was required to be on location and, to be able to do his job. So we had to have a place to live. We didn't have to pay for that. The company paid. So do check about that. Another thing you want to make sure you understand about the job offer is how the pay structure works. If there are classifications, I know in the hospital, again, that was one, if you work for the federal or state government, a lot of times there are ranges and then there are classifications. So it's like, if you're a this, then you're going to make this. And that's a way of kind of making sure they standardize the appropriate amount of work with the appropriate amount of pay over across an organization. So, that can be important in understanding like how you're going to move up, which goes to the promotion paths. Again, where can I go from here? A lot of times you'll be in a job where it's like, there's no place for me to go. I'm not going to get any more promotions. And you have to understand what that looks like at the organization or company. And if that's going to work for you, or do you know that you're in a place where you're eventually going to have to leave the organization to be able to move up, in terms of the work that you do. Annual raises, another big important, do they give annual raises? Do they not? If you have two companies and you look at one and they've been given an average of a 3% raise every year for the past 20 years, and you look at another company and raises are only done once and so often, and the salary is the same for both, you're going to want to go with that one that has annual raises, right? Because the other, you're going to be locked in at that rate until who knows when. So you do want to check to see and ask about that. Like I said, cell phone, that one, I don't know if they're really giving money for that or paying for those things. But again, a lot of times companies will say you use your own computer, but we'll pay you X amount. Same goes for the car, for mileage. They may say, we'll give you a car allowance versus we will provide you with a car. There's a very different tax structure for all of that. Again, see your tax guy, not me. But yeah, check into that to see, because again, it could really be, a good bit of money that you'd be saving or being compensated for. Okay, so how do you compare when you get multiple offers? I think the first thing that you have to do when you're looking at job A and job B is really look and ask yourself, what's most important to me? This is really, a personal thing, and you have to decide what is going to be most important to you. If working remotely is most important to you and company A offers it, but company B doesn't, that may be a plus, for company A and a negative for company B. If it's just straight up money, how much money am I going to bring home at the end of the day? That's one thing, that's another. But again, you want to take those other things into consideration. So you want to make sure you're kind of comparing apples to apples, but you're probably going to be comparing apples to oranges, if truth be told, right? So some of it are things that, what's really important to you. I list here a couple of different things. Being close to your family. If there's a job here in Fort Wayne, you're from Fort Wayne, your family's all here. How does that compare to a job in Chicago? If it's really close, if it's really important to be close to family, then that's going to make a difference, right? So you have to look at the things, figure out what's most important, and then compare those. I think you also have to compare the type of work you'll be doing. That is really important as well. I recently had a student who came in who was made an offer with a company she was currently interning with, had an offer from another company, but it was paying more than the one she was currently with. She decided to go with the one that was paying just a little bit less because she went back and negotiated a sign-on bonus. I believe it's what it was, but it was the type of work. She really enjoyed the type of work she would do with that company versus the work with the other company. It wasn't as appealing. So only you can compare those, kind of side by side. But you're going to need to list what's most important to you and then compare those accordingly. I talk here about a decision-making worksheet. I have a great worksheet that I've used with students for over a decade. That really helps you to kind of think about what are my values, what do I really want in a job, and then how to take different offers and kind of compare them based on what you're most interested in. And those are great. And I'd be happy to go over those with anyone if you're interested. Just feel free to reach out. And then again, don't forget that cost of living calculator, making sure you understand what it costs to live in one place versus another. But then also look at how that cost of living is impacted. I had a student years ago who was offered a job in, it was Alexandria, right outside of DC, right? Which is a very expensive place to live in terms of housing. The difference was astronomical between Fort Wayne and Alexandria, right? Well, this was a student who just graduated, and he was kind of like, you know what, I'm not buying a house. So when we looked at everything other than buying a home, when we looked at rental property, how much a steak cost, how much you're going to spend at a doctor, all those things are pretty much the same, right? So that offer that was $30,000 more in Alexandria actually was a really better deal because all things being said, he was going to make a lot more money and his cost of living would be relatively the same. Now, if he decided to live there the rest of his life and he went to buy a house, excuse me, that was going to make a big difference. But at least at this point in time, he wasn't. So it was a good offer for him. So again, you kind of have to look at what's most important to you and also know when you're going to be willing to walk away. It says, are there areas you could, negotiate? If the salary's not, what you want, but you really would like to have more vacation time, those are things, but we'll go into the negotiating stuff. Excuse me. My voice is going, when we have our negotiating workshop. Okay. So making sure that you can compare will help you through that if you like. Okay. Timelines. Okay. This, I put this here, don't blow them a kiss. That's what my daddy used to say. Yeah, don't accept right away. Just ask for it in writing, hang up the phone, do the happy dance, call your mom and dad or your significant other, celebrate it. Then, take a deep breath and wait till you get your in writing offer and then really kind of look at it. Now, the question I get about this most often is students will come to me and say, I got a job offer, but I'm waiting to hear back from company B, which is really my first choice. What do I do? Do I take the, offer, the one in the hand versus two in the bush, or do I wait? And I think some of that you can stall a little bit, but I think you need to be realistic. But be realistic about the timeline. You can't leave somebody hanging, a company, for whatever amount of time. And depending upon who they have, kind of in the pocket, if you don't take the job, if they have somebody they don't want to let get away, they may, really pressure you to make a decision. And then at that point in time, you really have to decide, okay, do I want to take this one that I know that I have? And if I get the other one, I'm not going to, because I put down here, do not renege. Do not renege. Please do not renege on a job offer. Don't accept it. Say, I'm so excited and call them back, a week later and say, oops, I'm sorry. I got a better offer. I'm not coming. Please don't do that. It can haunt you. I mean, I'm not saying it does 100% of the time, but, you may want to go to work for that company that you just said no thank you to. You may want to work there in the future. And, if they remember or they have somebody who knows or it's in your file with them, it can hurt you and it can hurt your reputation. So you don't want to be that person. So please, please don't renege. But, if you say, I need a week to talk about it, I want to talk to my parents about it, I need to compare, I've been interviewing with other companies, usually you can get a little bit of time out of them. And they'll usually say, well, we can give you a couple of days, a week, whatever. So just be careful when it comes to this timeline. Don't burn any bridges, but you got to look out for you. I understand that, no problem there, but you just don't want to burn any bridges that you don't need to. So, but you do need to let people know if you are not going to accept the offer for whatever reasons, please reach out, contact them, let them know, thank them for their interest, but that you're not going to be going with them at this time. It's really important that you turn down people. Be nice about it. Don't, just say thank you for the opportunity. Maybe we can work together in the future, but please make sure you tell them something. Don't ghost them. I know ghosting has become, those of you who don't know, ghosting is where somebody's supposed to come to work, start work with a new company, and they just don't show up. Or they just never get back. They don't answer texts or respond to emails. Please don't ghost people. Just let people be honest with them and let them know, I'm sorry, I can't accept, or I'm sorry, I've accepted another offer with XYZ. They may ask you for some input. If you want to give it, great. If not, you're not required to do that either. But please make sure you let them know. Okay, contingencies. This is something that unfortunately we have run into. Contingency means we are offering you this employment contingent upon certain things happening. And we unfortunately have seen students who were offered great jobs only to have the offer rescinded because they did not pass a drug screen, background checks, said they had a valid driver's license but didn't, all these kinds of things. Most of the time people will check references ahead of time, but a lot of times they don't. A lot of times they say, as long as your references come back okay, we're good. And then, I put here, number one reason people didn't didn't hire people was because, I mean, I literally called, when I was a recruiter, I was calling and checking references, and I'd have people say, oh my God, no, I would never hire that person. I had to fire them, you know? And it was like, well, I asked the individual, I said, why did you give me this person's name and number? And they said, well, I thought I had to. It was my former employer. You know, it was like, no, I can't hire you, you know? So some of this is going to be done ahead of time, but some of it may be done after. And if they tell you there's a contingency, you better be positive sure that if it's a drug screen, that you're going to be able to pass that drug screen, right? You know, you don't have any outstanding warrants. You know, all those things. You didn't make any false statements on a job application. We had that at Tech here not that long ago where somebody put something that they'd never been convicted of a felony, I believe it was, or something of the sort. No, if you did, you did. You can't put false statements on a job application, right? So please understand and make sure you're taking note of the contingencies and know that those are going to not be a problem, right? And then lastly, and we do run into this a good bit, more than probably you would think we would, but post-employment limitations and agreements, non-compete clauses is a biggie. A lot of times, and we have an alum who, God bless her, she did not realize she had a non-compete clause. She left her job to go to a competitor only to find out that the company she left pulled the no compete clause out and she had to resign from that position and could not work in that industry for 2 years. So she had to go and find a job in a totally different industry for 2 years before she could go back to that industry, which she did. She worked for 2 years in a different one, went back to that industry, but then left later. You know, I think this can't work for a contractor after being in procurement. We have a good friend who works for Eli Lilly, and that is absolutely, you know, he's in charge of purchasing things for Lilly. So these people that he's purchasing services for, he can't go work for them afterwards. And you can see where, you know, ethically that might, you know, that's why you can't do it. You know, you're not going to go and then I'm in procurement. I know all about the company, and now I'm going to go work for this company, and I've got all this information. Foregoing binding arbitration, that one is one that we definitely see some on. I am not an expert on foregoing binding arbitration at all, but I do know that that just means like you can't not, excuse me, how do I want to say this? You can't sue your employer and you have to go to binding arbitration versus suing them. So anyway, you have more questions about that, we can put you in touch with somebody who can talk about that more. But those are some of the limitations and agreements that you might come across in terms of the job offer. So, whew, all right, just to recap, know what you're worth, know what you want. Let them know you're excited, but buy time. Always ask for it in writing, you know. Compare based on needs versus desires. This is a big one. And this is a big one I tell employers too, just so you know, in your defense. What do you need to make and what would you like to make? But make those decisions based on what you know the salary range is for the job, right? So very important that you be able to think about that. Make sure you let everybody know. You know, when you say yes, say yes. You probably might have to sign something or agree to something, you know, but making sure you tell those folks no thank you or withdrawing your name from consideration in any other, if you're interviewing with somebody and you've been asked to go on a second interview and you've decided to take this other job, call them and say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to come for this interview. I've accepted another position. Thank you for your interest. Very important that you do those things. And then lastly, but not least, last but not least, we ask you to change your LinkedIn and complete an alumni success story with the Career Center. We have a part of our website where we list success stories, so you can brag on yourself. And then if you get the job too, come in and let us know so we can, take your picture and post it on LinkedIn. I landed the job at, and the name of the company where you're going. That's really important. You should be proud. So we want to highlight you, but it also is really important for Indiana Tech and future, graduates, because that puts that in people's minds. It's like, wow, look, there's a kid from Indiana Tech who's going to work at NASA. There's or Apple or wherever. It helps to tell our story in terms of how talented our Indiana Tech students are. So do make sure you let us know in the Career Center. And we just love hearing. This is the time of year we love in the Career Center, because, students are coming in and saying, I got the job, and they're so excited, and we're so excited for them, so yeah, please do let us know. So that's what I have for you today. I hope that's helpful. I hope if you need help or have questions about anything, that you will come to the Career Center or give us a call. Email us, careercenter@indianatech.edu. Feel free anytime. You can stop in, and we're happy to help. So good luck, and happy job hunting. Thank you.